Hey, I'm Dustin Panker with Climb. I'm with our latest off-road build, a 2019 KTM 300, and our goal with this build was to make it the ultimate off-road bike. We started out with a 2019 KTM 300 XC. The ultimate goal, and why we kind of call it the ultimate off-road bike, was if you have to just have one bike and you want to do a lot of disciplines with it, what bike would you start with and what would you do to it to make it as versatile as you possibly could with as few compromises as possible? We're pretty lucky where we live. We have a lot of different options for riding. You know, we've got tight single track, hard enduro, motocross, we've got sand dunes, we've got desert, we've got dual sport. I mean, you know, to build a bike to do all that and not have very many compromises is pretty tough. And, you know, for me growing up, I could only buy one bike. And so I always tried to buy the bike that was as versatile as possible, usually like an XC platform. But the biggest compromise was generally suspension. So if I set the bike up to be on the motocross track, I didn't have enough adjustability in the suspension to get it soft enough to make it as good as I could possibly make it on the trail. Or vice versa. If I built a trail bike, and you know, even if I sent the suspension away, I could never get it really handle well on a motocross track. So the goal was always to kind of reduce those compromises as much as possible to get a bike that was versatile enough and had enough adjustment in the suspension and the motor package to make it work well in all of those different conditions. But we found a company that had the adjustability wanted called Kreft out of Oregon. And they had some technology that they call revalve control. And what it does is it gives you the ability to essentially revalve the forks with an external adjustment at the bottom of the fork. So I can go quite soft if I want, and then by just turning an additional knob on the bottom, there's about 4 turns of adjustment, I can make it so stiff, almost like Supercross stiff. So it's got a really wide range of adjustment. And that's an additional circuit that they add as an aftermarket kit to this fork. And then you still have all the other circuits, you know, your rebound, your compression. One of the reasons we like the XC is because it gives us the air fork. And with the air fork, if I want a moto, I can put, you know, 145 pounds of air in it and make it stiff. But then if I want to go off-road, I can drop it down to say 120. If I want it to be really soft, maybe 110. And, you know, just kind of make it nice and compliant and plush and bouncy and get that handling characteristic out of what I want. So I have just this huge range of adjustment, and I can really make it work well in all of those different conditions just by, you know, tweaking the screwdriver a little here and changing the air pressure. So once we figured out kind of the suspension package and met those goals, the next thing was the power delivery. You know, for like if I want to go ride the sand dunes, I want basically as much power as I can possibly get, right? But then if I'm going to go trail ride, I'd like a nice smooth delivery, tractable, and then on a motocross track, kind of in between. And so for the motor package, we started with the carburetor. We played a lot with some different setups, the stock Mikuni. We've played with other carburetors, but what we settled on was what's called a smart carb from Technology Elevated. A couple things we liked about it. The biggest thing is we don't ever have to touch the carburetor. We can change altitude a lot and it stays consistent. This is an internally vented carburetor, so it's vacuum sensitive or air pressure sensitive. The calibration they sent us was almost perfect. Like I don't think I had to make 6 clicks on it to get it where I wanted it. So their R&D was really good, their setup was really good, and the power is super smooth, super torquey, very tractable, but then the top end is where we want it. If I want to go to the dunes and just, you know, have the motor light up, I don't have to change anything. So it's got a really wide power band, which we really like. And then the other thing was for the long rides, we needed to get as much fuel economy as we could out of the bike. I'm running the stock tank on this one, and I can still get over 80 miles out of a tank on a long trail ride, or if we have to even do a little bit of dual sporting. So really versatile package there. To pick up the power a little bit on this motor, we had the folks at SLP do a little bit of a polish. Not really too much porting, but just kind of cleaned it up a little bit. And then we milled 35 thousandths off the head. For our altitude, we can get away with milling that much. For lower altitude guys, maybe 20 thou to still run pump gas. So we're still running just 91 octane pump gas. We threw a V-force reed at it, a little bit better snap, FMF gnarly pipe, and then a Turbinecore silencer to make sure we're legal in the forest. If I go to a track, maybe we'll throw a shorty on it just to get a little bit more snap, but this package right here is really versatile. It's got great peak power, smooth power delivery from the bottom, good torque, lift the front end if I need to go over a log or something. On the sand dunes, it pulls really hard. It'll actually run the 450s, so we're really pleased with that motor package. The last thing we did was we put an SXS ECU, which has just got a little bit more aggressive timing. So that just kind of finished off that power curve where we wanted it. The other thing we did to make the power adjustable was we put a Creft power valve adjuster on it. And so if I need to just kind of really slow that power delivery down, you know, we'll adjust that power valve accordingly. If we want to go to the track and kind of make the power hit a little harder, you know, we can let that power valve open quicker. And so that gives us some of that adjustability for the different types of terrain or conditions we're going to ride in. So the last thing we kind of wanted to address on the power delivery was the clutch. We went ahead and threw a Recluse auto clutch on it. This is kind of a personal preference for me. I don't probably hold on to the bike or grip the bike as good as I used to. And so after an 80-mile ride, you know, I'm starting to fatigue and I can't hold on as good. And the auto clutch just makes it easier for me to, you know, kind of not have to feel like I got to keep my finger on that clutch, especially if I get in that super gnarly stuff. You're 30 minutes from the truck, you're almost there and you just wore out, you know, and I feel like I can just kind of relax and not focus on it so much. So that was kind of the main goal with the clutch, is just, I've already got a smooth power delivery, but if I can just relax a little bit more when I need to, it helps, you know, at the end of those long days. We wanted to make the bike as predictable as we possibly could. And we're riding in such a variety of terrain in different areas that we figured a steering dampener would be really helpful in some of that rough stuff. So we've got a Fastway steering dampener, clamp system, bar system on it. And it's tunable, which I do find myself occasionally adjusting it depending on the conditions I'm in. If I'm on a high-speed whoop section at the sand dunes, I'll definitely tighten it up a little bit, versus if I'm in some gnarly single track hard enduro stuff, I'll just kind of back it off. So that really helped us with the steering, or with the predictability on the front end. Of course, the suspension adds to that as well. The next thing on the ergonomics that we did was the controls. We went with Warp 9 breakaway levers, clutch and brake. And then we went with a Warp 9 adjustable rear brake lever. For me, I'm tall and I have size 13 boot, and I like to kind of move that forward a little bit. So that was just one of those little details that makes it easier for me to find the brake and just kind of put it right where I want it. The next thing we did on the controls and the chassis was we went ahead and threw a set of Fastway foot pegs on it. A little bit bigger, a little bit better traction. They're also adjustable. For me, the relationship between the peg and the seat is pretty important. And that gave me some adjustment there to where it doesn't take quite so much effort to go from sitting to standing. So we also wanted to just kind of beef up a few areas of bike. So we started with the wheels. We went with Warp 9 wheels. They had just released some titanium parts for the wheels. So we've got the titanium nipples and the spokes on there. Try to reduce that rotational weight as much as we possibly could. These are a little bit beefier wheel and hub than the stock setup. So we know if we're running through the rocks at high speeds, you know, we're not gonna take out a wheel or ding a wheel. So we've been really happy with that. They came with rotors and sprocket already set up the way we wanted them. So it was super handy to just, they're already trued, they're built, we just slap them on. It's got the sprocket on it that we wanted, so that was pretty easy. Other protective items we put on it, we've got some radiator guards on the front. And when we did that, we went ahead and added the cooling fan as well, just to give us a little bit of extra temperature protection and control. You can see at the bottom, we went with the P3 carbon fiber pipe guard and the skid plate. Wanted to keep it as light as we possibly could, but still give it some protection. And of course, the carbon fiber looks awesome, super high tech. So the next thing would be kind of navigation. We are using this. We did actually get to use it on a couple of really long trips, a couple 100-milers. And so we put a Trailtech Voyager Pro on it. Coolest feature on that is it's got the buddy tracker. So we can all, if 2 or 3 of us are running it, we can kind of pair them up, and I can see, you know, if somebody gets a little behind, I can tell he's there or whatnot. So that's a pretty neat feature as well. And it'll track the ride, and we can download it onto, you know, Google Maps or whatever. And then the other thing is we have been riding at night a little bit. So we've got the Baja Designs headlight setup on there. It's a LED setup, and it's really bright. We actually did have to use it several times at night, and it's crazy how much it lights the trail up. So really pleased with that. Glad we put that on there. The nice thing is the XC already had the power wire attached or in the harness itself. So it was just a plug and play, super easy to put on. So aesthetically, I like to take the stock plastic off a bike when it's brand new. That way, when I go to sell it, I can just kind of put it back to stock. In fact, in my garage, I kind of have all my number plates hung up, you know, kind of a memory wall. So we put all new plastic on it. We went with the Greyhawk Acerbis plastic. We liked the theme and how we kind of did a custom wrap here with Moto FX. Moto FX was fun because they have a website where you can build your own wrap. And you can add logos, take logos off, you know, move stuff around, whatever. So we played around, kind of developed our own wrap. This has taken some abuse. It's slid down a couple of rock walls and off a couple of things that I didn't intend to slide off of. So it's held up really well. It's a good, nice, thick vinyl. So been really pleased with the wrap. The plastic looks nice. It's held up really well. So yeah, we're pretty stoked on how that looks. So I also put the Pro Moto Billet Linkage on the bottom. 2 reasons. First, I like the protection and the strength that it gives. Second is it's tunable, so I can adjust my ride height in the back just a little bit. There's cams that you can change. I did play with that a little bit, and I ended up going back to the recommended cam that they say and they give you in the instructions. The only time I'd probably maybe change it for my height is like high-speed desert. Drop in the back, you know, kind of makes it a little bit more planted, but for the average riding, we're just running the specification that they recommend in the instructions. So overall riding impression on the bike, you know, as far as accomplishing our goal, I think this is probably the first bike in all the years I've been building kind of crossover bikes that I've actually had enough tunability and adjustability in the suspension to make it work really well in multiple conditions without much of a compromise at all, if in fact maybe none. The 2 keys there I think are Cref's revalve control and then also the air fork. We played with air pressure, we played with a bunch of different settings. They gave us a setting to start with, which was really good. They gave us one for both motocross and for off-road. And we did tweak on those a little bit. Each rider kind of had their own personal preference. But at the end of the day, we were all able to get the bike to handle and ride the way we wanted it in multiple conditions. So props to Creft. I mean, it's just, it really did elevate the bike to do what we needed it to do. And then I think the second thing that really stands out to us is what we were able to do with the motor, specifically the carburation. How easy it was to put that carburetor on. Everything fit perfect, which hasn't been the case on a lot of other kits we've done. The calibration was perfect for what we wanted. And the motor, the power delivery is just super easy to ride. I put my 13-year-old on it in the trails and he's not scared of it. But then I can go to the sand dunes and I can run with the 450s. So we're super stoked with how we made the motor run, the different people that we got involved or companies we got involved to kind of accomplish that specific goal. Chassis-wise, the handling, I mean, it feels like a really light 300, so it doesn't wear you out compared to say like maybe even a 350 or a 450 would. It's just nimble, handles the tight stuff just with ease. On the motocross track, I've spent so much time on a motocross track on a 450, I kind of forgot how fun a 2-stroke was on the motocross track. Coming into the corners with speed, and just being able to drop and change direction without hardly any effort, where the 4-stroke kind of wants to just push you through the corner. It's been a lot of years since I got to do that, and it's fun to go back to a 2-stroke on the track. So just the fun factor is super high on this bike, and the rider input can be super low, and just, I guess, just the overall experience has been exactly what we wanted. So that kind of wraps it up for our ultimate off-road bike build. We're going to put a list to all the aftermarket products that we have on this bike so you can check them out and contact those people. So we'll do more of these builds. We'll have more reviews on Climb Motorcycle. We'll also post that stuff up on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the normal spots. So subscribe to those channels if you want to see more of this. Thanks for watching.